And then we'll prime the carburetors by hitting the accelerator pumps a couple times to give it a couple of squirts of fuel in there, as you know. And then we'll hit the start button. And here we are in idle.
Jay Leno Garage. Today, the heart, the soul, the essence of Lamborghini. We don't have the cars, we just have the two incredible engines. The one that started it all, and of course, a huge 8-liter powerboat offshore racing engine. And we'll fire both these up, and you can see what they sound like. They make a lot of noise, but they're very, very cool. I'm here with Andrew Romanowski. He is the president of the Lamborghini Club, and this is his motor, and we'll find out about it. Andrew, come on in. Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you, Jay. Great to be back on the show.
If you read Octane magazine, I have a whole story about how he shamed me. My mirror had been sitting for like a year, and it was just going back to the dust, and he came and said, "What? Look how dirty you are." Oh, you're right. So I went through the whole thing, and so I appreciate that. But
yeah, no problem, Jay.
Yeah, but you'll read that story. Tell us what we have here.
Well, as you mentioned, this is the first Lamborghini engine. This is a 3.5-liter V12 from a 350 GT that I'm in the process of restoring. It was a sort of basket case car that I bought from somebody who had been sitting around for decades in boxes and pieces. And in the process of the restoration, this was the first to come together, the engine. And so for testing and display purposes here for the show, we put it on a cart, you know, to show everybody how it works.
It's really great, except now you don't want to put it in the car because it looks so beautiful. You just want to run it here on the stand.
Yeah, that's true. It really is a great looking engine with the 6 Weber carburetors, the valve covers clearly displaying Lamborghini. It's a sharp piece.
Yeah, and this is the engine that really made everybody sit up and take notice, because Ferruccio Lamborghini wanted to build a more roadworthy Ferrari. You know, the classic story, he got in a big fight with Enzo, the collectioner. "Why don't you build your own car? You can build just two Italian guys yelling at each other." I think Ferrari started more people in the car business. Monteverdi, Enzo Ferrari, you know, they had a big fight to them, and they went off and built their own cars. But he really did it. And this was, I think, fair to say, smoother, probably a better roadworthy engine than some of the road Ferraris. I mean, the Ferrari V12s are great. I'm not saying they're not, but this was a very competitor, let's say. I think it made a few more horsepower than the equivalent V12 Ferrari at the time. Am I right?
Yep.
It was smoother, a bit more sophisticated, and just classic example of early Italian engineering from the 60s. Just a beautiful, beautiful engine. Of course, everything is symmetrical. You have the twin distributors here, and the way the oil filter here mimics over here. It's really a beautiful motor. What was the horsepower output in it? Was it 350?
It was in the 300 range, yep.
Right, okay.
And, you know, to what you were saying about the Italian engineering, as a testament to this engine, the basic design of it was used for almost 50 years by Lamborghini.
Yeah, this was the Lamborghini's version of the small block Chevy, wasn't it?
Right, yep.
This would have been the 265, the 283. Well, this started out 3.5-liter, 4.5-liter, 5-liter, all the way up to this. What is this, 8-liter, I believe?
Yeah, that's an 8-liter made specifically for offshore racing and pleasure boating.
Well, we'll get to that one a little bit. I want to fixate on this one. Is this a standard?
Yeah, that's the standard. It's bent a little bit.
Okay.
That's a piece of the puzzle that still needs to be restored, but that's the standard dipstick.
Now, was this engine apart when you got it?
No, it was actually seized solid. And
wow.
a friend of yours and mine, Bob Huber from Vintage Lamborghini Garage, he took the entire engine apart and completely went through everything, put new cylinder liners in, new pistons, changed to a little bit more modern piston for a little bit more compression and a little bit more power, otherwise keeping everything stock. But the thing was locked solid when I got it.
And what caused that to happen? Run without oil, or just abuse, or what?
You know, I'm not sure. You know, the biggest enemy of these cars can be the mechanics. I think that there was a less than qualified mechanic working on the car before I got it, and the car had been sitting for decades, so there was a little bit of corrosion in the cylinders, you know, and things like that.
Well, you know, a lot of guys who take these to Clem at the Shell station, and
right, exactly,
kind of fix it with a hammer. Let me bang on that, see if I can free that lifter. Bang, bang, bang. Yeah, so I know how that works. Okay, and of course you have the 5-speed transmission hooked up as well.
Yep, and that's something unique to the 350 GT. Yeah, they use a ZF gearbox.
Right.
After the 350 GT, they switched to a Lamborghini design gearbox.
And which body style was this in? Do you have the car? You have the complete car?
I don't have the complete car. It's pieces of the complete car that I'm working to put back together.
Okay.
So it was the the touring aluminum-bodied 350 GT body style.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Because there are all kinds of things going on in Lamborghini in the early days, you know.
Yep.
Some of the cars were wild, some were kind of not too exciting, but
Right.
they all had this great engine.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Dallara, did he design, who designed this motor?
This is a Bizzarini engine.
A Bizzarini,
Yep,
okay,
yep.
all right.
And his pay structure from Ferruccio depended on the horsepower output of the engine.
Oh, that's right.
So this was an important pay point when they put it on the dyno and they were testing. They tuned it to get the maximum horsepower possible, so
Right.
Bizzarini would collect the bigger payday from Ferruccio.
Well, Mr. Bizzarini was here at the garage about 25 years ago. Which
Oh,
was
fantastic.
It was a huge thrill. I mean, he didn't speak any English, I didn't speak any Italian, but we did a lot of nodding and smiling. So
Right.
it was fascinating to meet him. He's truly a genius and just
Yeah.
built some beautiful, and it's so funny, when he built his car, he put a Chevy engine in it, which makes me laugh. I don't know why that does.
Did you ask him why he did it?
No, I don't speak Italian. He didn't speak English, and I didn't want to start a fight. So
Good point.
Yeah, but cool. So tell me about this. Did you make the stand here? This is really brilliant.
No, this was made by the mechanic I mentioned, Bob Huber. The pedestal was inspired by the 1963 auto show that
Okay.
Lamborghini participated in, and they put the 350 GTV engine on a pedestal display that looks exactly like this one.
Okay.
So it's pretty much the same. We added some support because the engine torques a little bit, when we're revving the engine. And, so we put some braces and things like that. And then with the cart, there's these auxiliary things to allow the engine to run.
And what a beautiful motor. You have 4 cams, here, 2 here,
Yep.
2 here, 2 valves per cylinder. Pretty traditional that way. Weber's. It just looks like classic Italian engineering from the period. And you realize when this car was built, this engine was built, it's about halfway through the development of the automobile. I mean, from about 1910 to 1960 is about the same amount of time from when this engine was built till now. So this
Yeah, it's true.
represents almost the middle point, which is kind of cool. I mean, it's kind of cool. And it's so simple compared to the P1s and all the cars that are out now. But when I was a kid, this seemed so complicated. Oh my God, look at all this linkage goes this
Right.
way and this way, and 6 carburetor. It just seemed like the most complicated thing in the world. But actually now it seems quite simple, which is interesting. Can we fire it up?
Yeah, sure. We'll turn on the fuel pump.
Okay.
And then, of course, we'll turn on the coil power. And then we'll prime the carburetors by hitting the accelerator pumps a couple times to give it a couple of squirts of fuel in there,
Right.
as you know. And then we'll hit the start button. And here we are in idle.
Sorry, Mrs. McGillicuddy. Yeah, we'll keep it down. Neighbors don't like that. But it sounds like it's got glass packs on it, but it's just open, isn't it?
Yep, open headers into a collector system that we made just for the display purposes.
It's just great, just great. It's
So-
a shame it has to go in the car. You almost want to keep it like this,
Right. Well, I think you'll like it. Once we put it in the chassis and we have it, rolling on the display chassis, we'll bring it back to the garage and show that off. But I think you'll like that just as much.
Oh yeah, I think I will too. Very cool. Now let's talk about our second engine here.
So this is our friend Rob Cleary, and Rob got the Lamborghini bug a few years ago.
Hey Rob, how you
Nice to
doing?
see you.
Good to
Andrew,
see you,
nice
my
to
friend.
Good to see you again. And since then, Rob has been buying up all kinds of strange Lamborghini collectibles, including marine engines.
Okay, now this, well, it looks about a third bigger than that, but it's an 8-liter, correct?
This is an 8-liter, 2-valve,
Yeah.
500 cubic inch, 8,000 cc, dual overhead cam. I mean, this is This
It's
is the
really
big boy.
just a bigger engine, bigger version of that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the big
Now, was
brother.
this an engine that was ever designed to be in a car like the Countach, or was it always marine?
Earlier in Lamborghini, they were looking for a larger displacement engine. They had the Countach, which they wanted to get more horsepower. The early stage of the LM was coming about. So unfortunately, when they got so far ahead in this, they realized the motor was just too big and too heavy.
Right.
I mean, it's 990 pounds.
Oh, it is. But it's built the same aluminum and everything. It's not cast iron.
No,
or anything, right?
aluminum.
It's all aluminum.
It's all aluminum, cast iron sleeved.
Right, right.
This is, like I said, this was the pinnacle for boat racing in the early 80s.
And how successful were they? Were they pretty successful?
So Lamborghini is still racing today in some
Right.
boats, which a lot of people don't realize. This is the first series. This is an L802. It's 2-valve. An offshore class 1 in the 90s that they changed the rule to a 4-valve.
Oh, they went to the Quattro valve.
Yeah, correct.
So what year would this motor be?
So this is about an 88.
Okay, about
Okay,
80. Okay.
yep.
Well, it's interesting because they had the Quattro valve Countach, which came, I think, in 86.
Yep, correct.
And the thing I love about it is they sort of use the American formula, more cubic inches, as opposed to supercharging or turbocharging. You know, I like naturally aspirated, and that's what this is. And it's interesting. You think they would, well, stick a couple of turbos on it, that'll do it. But no, they just got bigger and bigger, you know. This would be like the Hemi version of a Lamborghini, wouldn't it?
Right. Yeah, and Lamborghini stayed naturally aspirated with everything until the Urus.
Right.
Yeah, up until then, everything was natural aspiration.
And
So-
what is this rev to? About 8,500?
So these are lower revving, but you know, because you got to remember when you're boat racing, a belt can propel outside the water,
Right, right.
so they have the rev limiters on them. But the max power on this model was about 770 horsepower at 6,800 RPM.
Did anybody ever try to put one of these in a car?
Not to my knowledge.
No?
You know, some people have talked about putting them in LMs, but I've never seen anyone successfully do it. I mean, probably the weight alone would make it,
Yeah.
you know, infeasible.
It's the exact same construction, the exact same design as this motor, except just everything's what, a third bigger?
Large, bigger piston.
Yeah. How big? What's the piston diameter?
Piston on this is a 98.7.
Okay, these are 77 millimeter diameter pistons.
So as Jay said, that's roughly a third of the size right there.
And what's the induction here?
This is electronic fuel injection. Jay.
Okay, that's what I thought. I'm saying it looked like, well, no, it's not Weber's, of course, yeah.
Now they did also make a carburetor version too,
Right,
for
right.
pleasure boating.
Right, okay.
So is this a race engine or the pleasure boat version?
No, so this is an L802. That was the
Okay.
race engine. All in total, and they made 2 series. They made the L802, which was for the boat racing, and then they made an L900, which is a carbureted version for pleasure boating.
Yeah.
But all in all, they didn't make a lot of these engines at all.
And these are still relatively easy to work on, aren't they, compared to some of the more modern stuff? Because, I mean, of course you got more cams and everything, but it's all exactly what you see. You know, modern cars, you take them apart and pink, you drop some circuit board somewhere and you have no idea what. I mean, this form follows function. There's a cam follow, there's a cam, there's a, you know, you adjust it, you know, the whole deal. Plus, it must be fun. You can just adjust everything right here without out of the vehicle. Was this ever in a race boat, this one?
Jay, actually what they ended up doing under another good friend that we all share is Valentino Balboni.
Right.
So this actually was done under his watch.
And we should explain Valentino Balboni, probably the most famous factory test driver in the world. Everybody seems to know his name.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe him and Wallace were the two. But Balboni, because we're about the same age, and he started doing this when he was 18. When I was 18, I was working at McDonald's. Hey, you want fries with that, dude? Whereas he was actually driving and testing cars. And to this day, he still does. You know, when he comes, he gets in anybody's something. Let me see. I remember this car. Yes, boom, boom, boom. He takes off. You know.
Right.
And a real interesting guy, and he had the greatest. Everybody thought he had the greatest job in the world. And he would race through the hills of Modena, chasing. He would run into a Ferrari test driver, and the two of them would mix it up and all that kind of stuff. So it's really exciting. He really had an exciting life. They even named a car after him. They did the Balboni version.
Gallardo.
Of the Gallardo.
Gallardo, yeah, that's right. And they made it rear wheel only, not four-wheel drive, which is my favorite. And it had a manual box.
Right.
Which-
And we brought the, Rob has one, and I have one as well. We brought it to your garage last year.
Right.
And
You know, that's my favorite Lamborghini because it's light and it's just great, just great. Now, before we fire it up, I noticed this has one distributor, whereas the road car has two.
Yeah, so in the early days of the engines, there were two separate distributors, and in the later days, they went to a single one, especially when you needed air conditioning or, a way to drive the air conditioning or something off of the other drive.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And in the later days, you had faster processors for the electronic fuel injection, so you could go to a single distributor, and the fuel injection processor could keep up with the 12 points on the single distributor.
Oh, okay. So the early days, they didn't have the technology for a single distributor that big, is what you're saying, basically.
Basically,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, and tell me about this. It looks like there's a pipe that runs through here. This cools the exhaust, is that what it is?
Yeah, Jay, so one of the things they use for the boat racing, obviously, they use the salt water from the ocean to actually cool the exhaust. So you would have lines coming up here, and you would see, if you ever watch boat racing, you would see a stream, just the water coming right out the exhaust, and that would be used to cool the exhaust.
Of course, why do you need to cool the exhaust? I mean, in racing in Formula One, they don't cool the exhaust. What's the reason for cooling the exhaust?
These motors run hot.
Yeah, it keeps the
these-
engine temperature down. Keep in mind, these are usually in some kind of a compartment.
I see, but it's cooling it from this point forward. It's not cooling it near up here, right, where the valves or anything.
Correct, because a lot of times the exhaust would run through part of the boat.
Right.
So you want to keep that cooler,
I
things
see.
from warping.
Okay, cool. Can we fire this one up and explain the gauges that you have on this one?
Yeah, so this is an electronic gauge, a lot more modern. Basically just keeping track of the RPMs on here. So,
Okay.
So
Turn it on.
let the fuel pumps go. Hit the button.
It's an orchestra. It sounds fantastic.
It is. That's the best kind of music they make,
It
Jay.
really is. And did you make this stand as well?
So again, no, Valentino, he commissioned the whole build. I was lucky enough to meet Valentino, an idol of mine, ever since through the Lamborghini Club of America.
Yeah, and he's that much older than you.
No, not by any, no.
No, he's my age, right? He's about 68, right?
Yep. Oh,
Yeah.
say 48, 41.
Well, that's what I mean. So to me, so when you were a kid, he was
He was it.
yeah.
We all had the car bug, so he was just, like I said, I was always just into Lamborghini just because of the whole history. And like you said, thank the Enzo, Ferruccio came about, and he just, from helicopters to tractors to combustion.
Well, I like him because we had the same birthday. We're both born on
that's right.
April 28th, so that kind of. And I just like his attitude is the same as mine. I don't really like to go racing. I like fast, drivable, comfortable road cars. Something that's really enjoyable to road, as opposed to a race car on the road, which it's a little harsh. He always made cars that handled and started and worked, and the clutches always worked. That was his thing,
As he put it, a car for gentlemen drivers.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm a gentleman or not, but yeah, basically that's what it is.
Basically.
Well, these two engines are just fantastic, guys. Just great. Thanks for bringing it. And you think this will be in a car anytime soon? Or
Well,
going to keep this in the living room.
Not in the living room, maybe in the garage for a little bit, but
Yeah.
I think the next step of it, I have the chassis and the suspension for the car just about ready to go, so we're going to put it into the chassis, and maybe we can bring the rolling chassis back to the garage to show everyone.
That would be great. Now, do you have to make a body for it too, or have you got a body?
Much of the body's missing, so a body will have to be created.
And where did it go? Was it an accident?
I think it might have been in an accident, and then someone started to restore it, and then they stopped, and over the years, pieces became missing.
Yeah,
and
somebody thinks
changes hands and things like that. By the time it came to me, it was sort of a carcass of a car.
Right.
So,
Well, thanks for saving this piece of history.
Yeah,
it's
thank you,
just
Jay.
great. It's classic. Michelangelo's David's okay, but really, these are so much better. It's just fantastic. Gentlemen,
Thanks, Jay.
thank you.
Thanks for having us on the
guys.
show.
Thanks for firing them up.
yeah.
Very cool. See you guys next week.
Mm-hmm.